Reigen Arataka is a scam artist. A conman, a self-proclaimed psychic who can't even see spirits. But by the end of Mob Psycho 100, he becomes something far more powerful than just a fraud. He becomes a real mentor.
やめとけモブ。お前が苦しくなるだけだ。嫌な時はな、逃げたっていいんだよ。
And in this transformation lays a deep lesson about imposter syndrome, growth, and the hidden strength of authenticity. Reigen starts as a complete fake. He charges clients for spiritual services using nothing but salt, massages, and quick talk. He lies with a smile and dodges danger with charisma. He is a fraud, but he's not heartless. Even when conning people, Reigen genuinely tries to help them feel better. And that's the paradox. He's a liar, but not malicious. And most importantly, he's the only adult who treats Mob like a person instead of a weapon. But Reigen's mentorship is kinda strange, because he has no real qualification. Although actually, maybe that's the point. He gives Mob something that Mob desperately needed. Emotional direction. He teaches Mob not to use his powers to hurt others. Not because Reigen understands power, but because he understands people. Mob, a middle high schooler with god-tier psychic strength, listens to Reigen because Reigen listens to him. He gives Mob permission to be weak, to be normal, and to be human. Often at times we see celebrities, superstars and whatever, and we just think that they are perfect, right? Or that person at high school that gets the top grades, and we don't try to consider that maybe they have their own flaws too. It is just that they have their strengths that may be more obvious than their flaws. And whenever you see any of these kind of celebrity interviews, you see that they get really bad questions most of the time. And when somebody actually asks them about them, their personal life, and not just their public image, right? Or their sexuality or whatever, they feel kind of moved. They always thank the interviewer afterwards to say, that's a good question.
This is one of the most impressive interviews I've ever experienced in my life. Seriously.
Oh, well, thanks. They're really appreciative of people that actually appreciate them rather than their public image, which is what most people do. You know, correlation, association. It's human psychology, so you can't blame people, but it is something to observe and perhaps think about so that you could change. In the same way that that top student in your class, it could be yourself, may not have great social skills, right? They may come across as cold or whatever, but in reality they're just kind of clumsy and awkward, and they safeguard themselves, or they're like scared. But we don't see it that way. We don't even try to understand others. But Reigen is not that much different. He's still haunted by his own self-doubt. When he's exposed as a fraud on national TV, we see his whole world collapse. This is imposter syndrome in its purest form. Feeling like you don't deserve your role, your respect, or even your place in the lives of others. Reigen's confidence cracks. He starts to believe that maybe he was just a parasite riding on Mob's power. And that's when Reigen actually gets the same kind of treatment or approach from Mob that Mob got from Reigen. And Mob says to him that he was always a good person.
最初から師匠の正体は、いいやつだ。
And then comes one of the most emotionally charged scenes in Mob Psycho 100. Mob tells Reigen that he's always known he wasn't a real psychic. And more than that, Mob says he's actually okay with it. Because what mattered was never about Reigen's power. It was about his heart. And in that moment, Reigen's mask falls. He cries. And for the first time, he's not performing. He's just being himself. This is the redemption arc of a man who lied to the whole world, but told the truth when it mattered most. What makes Reigen powerful isn't talent, it's character. He proves that you don't need to be perfect to be a role model. You don't have to have it all figured out to help someone else grow. And you don't need to lie about who you are to become someone better. Reigen teaches us that being human, flawed, unsure and vulnerable is not actually weakness. It's the beginning of real strength. I always actually say this, but the first step of changing a problem that you may have in your life is to acknowledge it. Without acknowledging it, you will never get to address it and actually do something about it. If you never address that you have a problem with gluttony, with lust, with laziness, with one of these, like, you know, capital sins or whatever, then you will never actually be able to do something about it. If you think that things are fine, no, I'm okay, I'm not that bad, but you're letting some sort of parasite eat away at your character and at your life, you will never get over this mountain that will just keep on getting bigger and bigger as you accumulate the years. For example, I had a big problem in the past with laziness. I often found the more kind of efficient routes about doing something, and it often resulted in doing things improperly, and let alone like going the extra mile. I never did any of that. But I was tormented by words from my mother that just kept on reinforcing into me, oh, you're lazy, my brother, you're lazy, people like that. And I said to myself that I had enough. And I would say no to my inner voice when I would decide that I was going to put something aside. So I started to take cold showers, I started to go on runs, I started to do things that I didn't want to do that were good for me and my conditioning because of my lifestyle and whatever. I started to not leave my assignments and my work, my studies at the time until the last moment. When I got them, I made the rule of doing it right away, and I stopped being lazy, right? Well, every now and then I have a moment and I waste time, whatever, or I think to myself, I don't want to do it. But when I recognize that I say to myself, I don't want to do it, I usually go forth. I acknowledge this, I realized my flaws, I realized that I was human and I'm not perfect, and I yet have a long way to go. And I don't seek perfection, I just seek to become better. But I realized this, and I made changes. Now, for example, I still have a big flaw and a big problem with lust, but no buts, but again, and I'm trying to get better, and I'm working hard for it. Like right now, for example, I said but 2 times, right, and I had to correct myself and I corrected myself again, but I'm gonna leave that on the video to show you that, hey, I still make flaws, I go in circles in my own head, sometimes I say whatever stupid shit, and that's me, and I'm human and I make mistakes. I don't want to come across perfect, because God forbid, I am not perfect. I'm just here, an eternal student, just like all of us. Reigen Arataka started off pretending to be someone important, but in the end, he became important. Not because of what he could do, but because of who he chose to be. He's proved that even if you start as a fraud, you can grow into something real. And not by chasing perfection, but by showing up with honesty, humility, and the willingness to care. Maybe being a good person doesn't mean being the smartest or strongest. Maybe it means choosing to care. Even when you're scared, you're not enough. Strive to be 1% better every day, and much love. Hope you liked the video.